Hey guys, Knox from 7th Hour Films back again with Hellsing Ultimate. Screw it, it's still Halloween. I am recording this on October the 25th of 2023, so screw it, it's still Halloween. And it's gonna be Halloween for the next 9 weeks, including this one. So, I guess after the next 8. Anyway, last time, Hellsing 1, Hellsing Ultimate episode OVA 1. We were introduced, I guess, to the characters, more or less. We were reintroduced to our old friends, Alucard, Saris, Integra, Walter, even Alexander Anderson. Throw him in there, crazy bastard that he is. It was fun. Alucard turned young police girl Saris Victoria into a vampire. She kind of wants to hold on to her humanity. She doesn't want to abandon her humanity, JoJo. And, And they had a fight with Alexander Anderson, which went. It went. I don't know if it went well or if it went bad, but I mean, I guess the two of them survived, so that was that. And there is a shadowy organization that is responsible for this outbreak of vampires, which is interesting. I wonder who they could be. Could be anyone, really. Could be anyone. Could be the Motley Crew. Could be George Lucas. We don't know. I forgot what Walter said. Damn. Anywho, should we just move on? Should I just stop alluding to Hellsing Ultimate Abridged and we just move on? Let's move on. So, like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of Hellsing Ultimate. Here we go. Okay, so Sir Irons. Sir Irons, that was the guy that ordered Integra to do it. Okay, he's interesting. Alrighty. So, I guess it could have been George Lucas. Who knew? I love... Because I feel like in most anime, maybe this is because it's an OVA, but I feel like in most anime, you don't reference things like this, you know? And, I mean, the biggest example is JoJo, you know? Because in the JoJo manga, there's, 20 million references to music, you know? And because that's just how Araki writes, you know? He just likes to do that. But in the English translations of the manga and in the English dub of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anime, all those names, for the most part, have to be changed. And sometimes they get a little clever with them, but for the most part, they have to be changed significantly. And I feel like, because I mean, I've seen, a couple anime recently where, like, they'll have kind of a Nintendo Switch or, like, a DS or something, but they'll never say that it's a Switch, and they'll never make it... Well, I mean, it is kind of obvious, but they kind of change it up so that, they don't show it so easily. But here there's a complete... There's a straight reference to the Konami code of Yan using the Konami code as a way of killing. And then the reference to, when looking up Millennium is like, oh, there's something in the United States, but it's a Star Wars fan club because of the Millennium Falcon, So that's just such an interesting thing that there are references like that, but maybe it is because it's an OVA and not a... Like this, I'm pretty sure this was not on television. I mean, just with how mature it is, too. Like, I don't know if it could be on television. Well, I don't know. Maybe you guys could correct me, but... but that's also why, because it's an OVA, which is also why it can be longer episodes. So maybe that's how they get away with it. Like, well, this isn't airing on television, so... I don't know. But that was good. That was good. Boy, oh boy, we got a lot in this one. I guess let's just go straight down the notes that I got here. First off, we open with a scene, presumably, of Dracula. And it's interesting, it seems to be following the novel, which I find it interesting whenever there is a new sort of Dracula story. I like when they do kind of start to reference the Bram Stoker novel, Like this one, it's like, okay, you have him, he's Alucard, not Dracula per se. Right now he's Alucard, and, how does that factor in? But, then it's like, okay, but here he's, could he have been Dracula, Was it the story where you had Professor Van Helsing who was the one who, figured out how to defeat a vampire in the story. And I guess there's also the thing... Okay, so see, I haven't read the book. I have not read Dracula. But I have seen the Bela Lugosi movie. I've seen a couple of the movies, but obviously the biggest one is the Bela Lugosi movie. And then... I have actually... I listened to a radio play, actually. It's an old... from the 30s, actually. This is just how big a nerd I am. But I listened to... It was like an Orson Welles radio play. It was by his same radio company that did the War of the Worlds broadcast. If you know anything about that. You might not. I don't know. But yeah, so it was that same thing, and they did Dracula... And it was sort of a similar thing there. It was not, it's obviously, because I'm pretty sure the movie wasn't even out by then, the Bela Lugosi movie. So it was its own adaptation. So I guess I don't know the exact details of the book. I don't know if... and of course, this, like any adaptation of Dracula, can take liberties, obviously. So I guess they're kind of taking liberties of they're referencing the book. I'm assuming I think it's Mina. I think Mina is the name of the girl in that movie. And then he's got Harker. There's Harker. There's Renfield. I'm pretty sure, unless I'm getting those names confused with the names in Nosferatu. I've also seen that. So yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's Jonathan Harker, and then you have his lackey basically being Renfield, of which they've made a new movie about that recently too. So I'm curious. So I would assume that's what they are referencing. It's just that instead of, at least how I remember in the Bela Lugosi movie, where Hellsing was a professor basically who figured out these things about the vampire and thus was able to defeat Dracula. I'm assuming the difference is in this backstory, Hellsing, the original Hellsing, was simply a vampire hunter. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm sure they'll go into more detail about it at some point, but yeah. But that's just really interesting. I like seeing... Because again, I guess speaking of Konami, they do a similar thing to that in Castlevania. At least, in both sort of the show and the games, because I know that in one of the games, I think the game on the Genesis, there's a character who's a descendant from a character in the book specifically. So the book is technically canon to the series of Castlevania games, even though they show Dracula's origin, as well as I'm pretty sure that's in the story with Leon Belmont, and they do that again in the Castlevania animated series on Netflix. That they kind of end with Dracula maybe he's gonna be in England and that'll be the events of the book. Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, so interesting stuff, definitely. We got the chips, man. I feel like they didn't play up the chips enough in the original Hellsing, because again, coming into this with some knowledge of Hellsing Ultimate Abridged as well as the original Hellsing, the chips are more featured in Hellsing original. They pretty much don't mention it in Hellsing Ultimate Bridge, so that's a good thing. I don't have too much knowledge coming from that, but in the original Hellsing, they do mention the chips. I didn't realize though how powerful these chips are. That not only do these chips create the vampires, but they control them. They can monitor and track the person. The ghoul or the vampire. So yeah, it's just a really interesting. It's just a really interesting thing, And yeah, we have Millennium. I'm glad they do kind of deduce, because that's obviously that's the joke in Abridged where Jan is just bursting into flames, and then he just says Nazis, But here, I like that that Integra did actually deduce what that meant, that millennium, derived, it is a word meaning a period of 1,000 years, and thus, what was the Millennium Empire, So, it's a good thing that Integra's not a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, otherwise she might be start thinking about the Millennium items. I don't know. But yeah, so that was interesting. We hit Saris. I love these goofy moments with Saris. They're very few and far between so far, but I do like them. Just this moment of and specifically Integra, who ordered that her bed be taken away and she be given a coffin instead, and then the order is confirmed by Alucard. That was really funny. And yeah, so she has to have a coffin. I don't even know if that coffin was big enough for her, honestly. Like, that coffin seemed a little too small. But yeah, because she does not drink blood, she has to, in order to keep her strength up, she has to sleep in the soil of her home, basically. Which is interesting, because I know that's another myth of the vampires. But it's an interesting thing that, like, the sort of separation of that, I guess, that it's like, well, you either have to do that or you have to drink blood. Saris isn't drinking blood, so she has to sleep in the soil in the coffin, So yeah, so that's a really interesting detail about it. I was thinking of something else vampire related just now. I lost whatever train of thought I was having. I guess it wasn't really a vampire thing, but it does kind of remind me of Demon Slayer, where Nezuko, while being a demon, does not consume human flesh. She doesn't eat humans. What she does is she just sleeps and regains all her strength that way. And so I guess you could say that maybe Saris is sort of like that, Honestly, I could see a bit of Demon Slayer getting just a little inspiration from Hellsing, because the other stuff is kind of night and day, Like, it's crazy, but it kind of reminds me of that. And I guess sort of with Luke saying, like, oh, all of us vampires, we're trying to live up to you and surpass you. And sort of implying that Alucard, or Dracula, is the original vampire, basically, does sort of give slight vibes of Muzan Kibutsuji, but that's kind of where the similarities end, So, but speaking of, we got Luke and Jan Valentine. Great, absolutely great, these two chuckleheads. I like that. Again, Jan going through and doing like the Konami code and stuff. It's like, oh goodness, But they were definitely, they definitely weren't there to actually succeed. They were just there really to send a message, Send a message to the round table as well as to Integra that something's coming, So, we got to see Walter in action. I love when Alucard is just like, it's like, oh, so Walter Dornez, the Angel of Death, is going to take flight again. And of course, Saris doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, but I love that. for some reason, Walter's wires are just so cool, you know? Like, it's just so cool. Like, I want to see that in more stuff, you know? Because especially too, because it feels like such a strong weapon, you know? It seems like such a strong weapon, but it's just so great and so cool. I mean, we kind of talked about this last episode, that, you know, everything in Hellsing is ridiculous and over the top, but it's so cool. Like, this is the kind of edgy stuff I like, you know, where it's like, everything in this is ridiculously edgy, but God, everyone is having so much fun that I have fun, you know? I want to have fun with edginess, you know? So I like that. And yeah, just Walter just carving through so many of them is just so great, you know? And we did get Saris with her cannon, you know, bitches love cannons. I cannot guarantee now that I will not make abridged references, you know? But I'm sorry, they just keep coming, you know? And I'm sure I was doing this in the original Hellsing as well, but because they did kind of do the same thing, you know. They basically did this episode. It was like episode 4 or 5, maybe even episode 6 when they did Luke and Jan Valentine, though. So it's interesting having this just being the second one, you know. But I did sort of make the same reference where it was like, you know, where at the end when Jan explodes and is like, I heard George Lucas. Did anyone hear George Lucas? You know. Why can't I remember what the other one was, though? I'm actually gonna have to like look it up, because I remember the Motley Crue with my vampire hearing, but I can't remember what Walter said. Now I gotta look this up. Ah, damn it. Oh well, fuck it. We'll do it live. Oh well. But yeah, and then I love Luke versus Alucard. Did I forget to put an E on Luke? I just put Luck with a K. Whoopsies. I guess Luck has a K, but without a C. Doesn't matter. But that was interesting. I mean, here's the thing. Luke is pretty strong. Like, Saris would probably have difficulty fighting him. And Alucard even said, it's like, oh, they're taking a while with the one upstairs, you know? Like, that's so strange. But Luke is probably incredibly strong. But it's nothing. Like, yeah, it would be like if someone went up to Goku and was like, oh, yeah, I have the same, you know, base power level as you. And Goku was like, really? And then after, you know, 5 minutes of fighting, he went Super Saiyan. And then you're like, oh. You know, like, it's basically that, where it's like, yeah, Luke and Alucard probably have the same base stats, but Alucard can go so much further than that, you know? So yeah, he did his release restraints and busted out his real powers, but unfortunately he overestimated Luke. And I do just love that moment of realization. He's like, oh, so this is what you really are, you know? Like, he's honestly disappointed by how weak Luke actually is. And I just love that. And man, that shit's scary, man. Like, that was genuinely scary just when he's going all out. And that's not even him going all out, you know? He's going a little bit more out, basically, you know? But yeah, but he is a true vampire. And then we had the moment of Integra. She has to be responsible for this. And honestly, because there's a thing of like, there's a thing where it's like, okay, well, do you have to really push that? But at the same time, it's like, I do get where Sir Irons is coming from, you know? And it's difficult, it's heavy, but she takes it and she goes and does her job, you know? Because she cannot bring shame on the British Empire, basically, and on the Hellsing lineage, so she must take care of this herself, you know? And she did. It was her responsibility as a leader, and she did it. So, for good or bad, I mean, that is sort of the case, you know? But yeah, but obviously Walter wants to protect her, you know? Like, he has been pretty much in charge of her care would they say 10 years since she was a young girl and her father died, and probably even before that. I mean, I'm sure all of her life he has taken care of her as the butler of the Hellsing organization. So yeah, it's like he wants to protect her, but this is something she needs to do. So yeah, great stuff. I am so happy to be watching this. It is actually incredible. So yeah, where are we going next time, though? I guess I kind of have an idea just based on Abridged, but I don't know. I guess we will find out. But that is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and Halloween is continuing onwards. See you guys later. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with every Hellsing reaction I've ever done, as well as another video on screen if you want to go click around if you want to check out that. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.